welcome to the Marley Bird YouTube channel, brought to you by Red Heart Yarns. In this video, I will teach you how to make the Chasing Rainbows baby blanket. This has been a popular request by many of you who are subscribers of the Marley Bird YouTube channel, and it is time that I finally get around to teaching you how to make this really great blanket. This is a free pattern over on redheart.com. You can find a link to it right down there in the video description box below. And while you're down there, go ahead and smash that like button, as my kids say, to let people know you enjoyed this video. Now that I've told you it's a free pattern, how about I give you a little bit of insight about the materials you will need for this blanket. To start off, this is a free pattern available on redheart.com. You can find a link to the pattern down in the video description box below. Along with the free pattern, you will need a size H or a 5mm crochet hook, a good pair of scissors, a bent tip tapestry needle. I like to have a couple stitch markers on hand too, just so that I can make sure my edges are nice and clean. And last but not least, you will need to gather the yarn that you are going to use for this project. Now, for the Chasing Rainbows blanket, I actually used 1 ball each of gumdrop in all of the colors, and then 2 balls of the Red Heart with Love. In today's video, I am going to do my sample using Baby Hugs by Red Heart, just because I thought I would change it up a little bit and show you that you don't have to use the actual gumdrop yarn if you don't want to. You can mix and match different types of yarn and still get a really great looking blanket. Now that I've told you about the materials and you've got your pattern from redheart.com, let's go ahead and jump in and make this really great blanket. Are you ready to make this really awesome blanket? Me too. The first thing I want you to do is grab your color A, and you are going to either chain 130 as it's written in the pattern, or if you want to change up the pattern, the multiple you need to know is you need to chain 6 plus 4 chains. So for a chain, you start off with a slip knot on your hook, and you go ahead and you take your hook, wrap it around your yarn, and pull that yarn through your slip knot. That's 1 chain. Wrap your hook around your yarn, pull it through the stitch, that's 2. You continue on working in this method, and remember, you never ever count the loop that's on your hook as the chain. I'm going to go ahead and work 3 multiples of 6 plus 4. 22. I now have my multiple of 6 plus 4. As I said, I'm doing a simple little swatch here, so I'm not going to do the full 130, but if you're making the blanket, that's how many you'd want to change. Now I will place 2 double crochets in the 4th chain from hook. So I do not count my loop on my hook. I will count 1, 2, 3, 4. So in my 4th chain, I'm going to place 2 double crochets. I've yarned over my hook. I go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. Yarn over my hook, go into the same stitch, the same chain, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. So I've placed 2 doubles into the 4th chain from hook. This initial skipped 3 chains counts as a stitch, and that's where my stitch marker is going to come in handy. I will go ahead and place my stitch marker in the top of that 3rd chain, and that's just going to signify that that's the end of that row. Now that I've done my 2 double crochets, I can carry on in the pattern. I skip 2 chains, and then I will single crochet in the next chain. So skip, skip, work a single crochet into the next chain. And then you'll see that in the instructions it has a star. And so this is going to signify our repeat. This is where you will repeat this across the entire row. So we will skip 2 chains again, and we will do 5 double crochets in the next chain. So skip, skip, work 5 double crochets, all into that same chain. I'm going to do these double crochets a little bit faster because I've already taken the time to show you how to do a double crochet. If you want instructions for a slower version of how to do a double crochet, go ahead and click on that little eye icon up there at the top of the screen, and you can be directed to the Beginner Basics Crochet videos right here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have 5 stitches all into that one chain. I will now skip 2 chains. You want to make sure that you kind of scooch those stitches over a little so that way you can see that chain so you don't accidentally forget about that one and then get off track. So there's 1, 2 chains that I'm skipping, and I'll single crochet in the next chain. Now I go back to the star, and this is where I do my repeat. I will skip 2 chains and work 5 double crochets in the next chain. Once I've done that, I go ahead and skip 2 chains and I work a single crochet in the next chain. You continue doing that until you get to the last 3 stitches of the row. When you reach the last 3 stitches, you will skip the next 2 chains and you will place 3 double crochets in the very last chain. What you will notice here is this is going to give us a symmetrical look from the way we started this row. Remember that I told you the initial skipped 3 chains counted as a double crochet. So here we ended with 1, 2, 3 doubles, and we began technically with 3 doubles also because our skipped 3 counts as a double and we had 2 more doubles over there. Once I have finished that at the end of this row, I would go ahead and fasten off my work. So I yarn over, pull through, so I'm actually making a chain stitch. I will cut my yarn and make sure you leave 4 to 6 inches because you will have to weave these in and they have to be woven in really nice. Otherwise they're going to sprout out all over your blanket the first time you wash it. Once you cut your yarn, go ahead and pull that loop all the way through, and that fastens off your row. You've completed row 1. Now that we've finished row 1, we're ready to move on to row 2, and we will change colors. And this color is going to be your main color throughout the blanket. As we take a look at the blanket here, our main color is the white. So it's the color that really segregates or delineates all of the other colors, and it gives you this really cool trellis look. So this will be what's called your color B in the pattern. And so make sure that it's a color that will actually really stand out as opposed to the other colors of your blanket. I am going to go ahead and use white for this, and we start off with the wrong side facing. So this is where we finished. I will go ahead and turn my work so I have the wrong side facing me. And it says that you will join B with a single crochet in the first double crochet. So we will join with a standing single crochet. It's really easy. I'm going to show you how to do this. You place a slip knot directly onto your hook, pick up your work as you normally would, and go into the stitch. Now you will just yarn over your hook, pull up a loop, and make sure you hold your loops that are on your hook nice and taut. And then you will yarn over your hook and just draw through both of the loops. We have now just joined with a standing single crochet. Once we've done that, we will chain 1, skip the next 2 double crochets, skip the next single crochet, and we will double crochet in this space right here on the other side of the single crochet. So it's not into an actual stitch, it's literally into that space. Okay, you ready? So we are going to yarn over our hook, go into this space, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. Now you continue on chaining 2, and we will come back and working in front of the single crochet over here to the right side, we will do a double crochet over here into this space. So we are doing a double crochet on either side of that single. Pretty easy to do, we'll just simply go like that. What we've done is we have crossed over our stitches, and so it gives a really cool effect to this really awesome stitch. Once we've completed the crossover double crochet, you will chain 1, skip 2 double crochets, and place a single into the third. Let's break this down even easier. For this entire row, all you will be doing is placing a double crochet into the left side space of the single, chaining 2, putting a double crochet in the right side space of the single, chain 1, and then put a single crochet in the top of the set of 5 double crochets from the previous row. And then you chain 1, and we will start all over. We will put a double crochet to the left side of the single crochet, chain 2, and then put a double crochet into the right side space of that single crochet. Remember, you're going into that whole space. There's not an actual stitch at all. Chain 1, skip 2, put a single in the top. We'll do that once again. Chain 1, put a double crochet into the left side space of the single, chain 2, put a double crochet in the right side space of the single. You repeat this all the way to the end of the row. At the end of the row, you finish off with a chain 1 and place a single crochet in the last double crochet of the row, which happens to be the one that we marked over here. So I just go into the stitch, yarn over, pull up, and I complete my single crochet. Now you'll notice I did not mark my single crochet over here on this end, and the reason I didn't mark it is because I can obviously see where that stitch begins, because it's not just some chain stitches. But if you want to put a marker there, you absolutely could put a marker there to signify that that's the end of your row. Now that we've reached the end of the row, it's time to change colors again. So we will fasten off this color yet again. Yarn over, pull up a loop, snip your yarn, make sure you leave a nice long tail, and give it a tug, and you've completed that particular row. You're on your way. Now that we've finished row 2, we move on to row 3, and we move on to our next color. I will go ahead and use the green color for my next row, and I've turned over my work so I'm looking at the right side. Let's go ahead and grab my color, and we will join our next color, color C, with a single crochet in the first single crochet again. So you place a slip knot on your hook, go ahead, go into the very first single crochet, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. You have just joined with a single crochet. I'm not gonna lie, row 3 is so super easy. Once I show this to you, you're gonna be cruising through this row, no problem. Once you've joined with the single crochet, you will go ahead and place 5 double crochets into this chain 2 space. So just like before, where we did 5 double crochets into one chain, we are actually doing 5 double crochets into one space, that chain 2 space. So we're just filling it up with these really great double crochets that create a really pretty trellis shell sort of look. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once you've completed that, it's time for the repeat. The repeat for this row is chain 1, and then skip all of this, come all the way over here to this chain 2 space, and do 5 double crochets into this chain 2 space. You would continue this all the way down till you get to the end of the row. When you get to the end of the row, you will just single crochet in the last single crochet. Once you've completed the single crochet, you go ahead and finish off your work yet again. Pull your work through and fasten it off. Not so bad, right? It's time to move on to row 4, which we go back to our main color. Row 4 begins with the wrong side facing, and this time we will join with a double crochet into the first single crochet. So just like we joined with the single crochet, we will put a slip knot on our hook, but this time we will yarn over our hook. If you use your finger to kind of hold that yarn over in place on your hook to give it some stability, it really helps out. Pick up your work and go ahead and insert your hook into that last single crochet, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then complete the double crochet with the loops on your hook. You've just joined with a standing double crochet. Once we've done that, we will double crochet into the same stitch. So yarn over your hook, go into the same stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2, yarn over, draw through 2. You chain 1, you skip the next 2 double crochets, and you place a single crochet in the top of that chain 5 space. See how we're getting ready to start doing the repeat just like we did with the white in the previous row. Once we've done that, now we go ahead and we chain 1, and we will yarn over our hook, and we're coming all the way over here into this single crochet 2 rows below into this big space right there, and we will put a double crochet into that space to the left side of that single, chain 2, and then put a double crochet over here to the right side in the space of that single. Chain 1, skip 2 doubles, go into the third double crochet with your single, chain 1, and we do our repeat again. So we'll come all the way down here to the row below where the white was, go to the left side space of that single crochet and work a double, chain 2, come all the way over here to the right side space of that single crochet, work your double, and that's complete. Chain 1, skip 2 doubles, put a single crochet in the third, chain 1, and you finish off, so you repeat all of that to the end of the row, and you will finish off with a set of double crochets in the last single crochet here. So just like we began with 2 doubles, we want to end with 2 doubles. You guessed it, you finish off your work once again, and you've completed row 4. When you move on to row 5, it's very similar to what you did on row 1, with the exception of, instead of working into chains, you're working into stitches. I think you can complete row 5 without my help because you really should be on your way now at this point. But why don't we go ahead and set my little sample aside and let's take a look at one that I worked up actually using the yarn that I used in the pattern. This is actually the start of another blanket. Check this out. And I started off with my color A, I worked with my color B for row 2, went to the next color for row 3, went back to my color B for row 4, this is my row 5, and then I finished off with my row 6. So this is how it would look. I went ahead and I wove in my ends here at the very edges, so that way you could see what it would look like when the ends are woven in really nice. But as I mentioned before, you will have to take your time to weave in your ends really neatly, and that's why I want you to make sure you have nice long tails. And it takes a lot of time, but it's worth it in the end. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like, really super duper pretty. But why don't I go ahead and show you how to weave in your tail so that way you know how to do it. Let's just go ahead and grab the sample we have been using, and I'm going to grab the green colorway. I'm going to take my bent tip tapestry needle and I will go ahead and thread the yarn through the eye of the needle. Once I've done that, all I need to do now is sort of kind of go back along the same colorway. And what's awesome is as you get to where the white is worked around, for me, or the main color, let's say it that way, where the main color is worked around the stitches of the color you're weaving in, you can kind of take your yarn and weave underneath that color. So you can see here, I'm just going up across these stitches this way so I can get back over here to where the white is. And I'm going to pull this through. And I want to make sure I'm not pulling it too tight to where I'm altering or distorting the fabric. And once I've done that, I like to make sure I go in several directions. Once again, there's a lot of ends to weave in, and I want to make sure they're not going to pop out. So for me, I went across, I just went down, I'm coming back along this bottom edge. Okay, I really like where the stitches collect into one space like that because I can really weave my yarn through all of those loops. But as I come back, I'm going to skip over that first loop. Can you see I'm skipping over that first loop and coming back along that same path I just went into. I feel like it's good at hiding. And then I'm going to do that once again. I'm going to skip the first loop on this edge and come back. And if I was really concerned on this path back, pretend this is my yarn that's coming this direction, I could actually take my needle and weave it literally through the yarn so that it would catch. See, just kind of like that. But I'm not going to worry about it for this time. But if that's something that is concerning for you, you could do that, sort of like a Russian join. If you don't know what a Russian join is, I'll put a link in the video notes just below, in the video description below, so you can kind of see how that is worked. But for this, Because I went this direction, came down, went back, this way, I feel like that is nice and secure. So I would feel confident enough to go ahead and snip this yarn and finish that off. I feel like that is nice and securely woven in. And I would do the same thing with all of the different colors here, okay? So weaving in is a really important part of this blanket. Once you have finished the blanket, you're gonna notice that you have a ton of ends to weave in. And I promise you, you are going to wanna take the time to weave them in just like I showed you. After you've woven in all the ends, it's time for the border. Now, because this stitch is a really complex stitch and I knew you were gonna have a lot of ends to weave in and I didn't want you to have to count a specific number of stitches to add a border, I kept the border really simple with a really distinct flair to it just by working into the camel stitch. Now, this might be the first time you've ever worked into a camel stitch, so I wanna make sure I show you how to do that. But to begin, why don't we talk about how you do half double crochets around your work as evenly as possible. Take a look. You can see down here I have taken the time and I've woven in at least one side of the little swatch we just did. And I went ahead and I changed colors for the first row of my border, just so that you could easily see the stitches as opposed to what we did on the sample swatch. Now, all you would do here, when you get to the end of your row and it's time for your border, you do not cut that very last row. You would continue on working your border in your main color. All you would do is chain one, and then it says to do a half double crochets as evenly spaced as possible around the blanket. What that really means is you need to find what works for you. How many half double crochets do you need to put in any particular stitch or any particular space so that the blanket doesn't ripple and ruffle? And it doesn't mean that each side has to have the exact number. They could be off. They could be 30, 50, 40, 35, whatever your numbers want to be. As long as the blanket lays flat and it looks nice, that's what's most important here, okay? So what I've done here is I chained one and then I just started putting half double crochets along the row. When you get to the end of your row, you want to put 3 half double crochets in the corner. So I have placed one already and I'm just going to go ahead and place 2 more half double crochets just right here in the corner. Now this corner, in order for it to continue to lay flat for the entire blanket, I will always put 3 half double crochets in that corner. As you carry on, you work down the side of your blanket. That's where it gets a little bit more tricky to evenly space out the half double crochets. But for me, I just kind of find a rhythm and I'm just like, okay, if I put 1 half double crochet in the end of that white row and maybe 1 at the end of this one. But when I get to where I have the double crochets here, maybe I put 2 half double crochets at the end and I just work around the entire post of the stitch. Now I'm to the corner and once again I would make sure that I do 3 half double crochets. Does that make sense? So I would do that all the way around. When you get to the end of the round here, you would join with the slip stitch to this first half double crochet and you do not turn your work. You would continue on working into the camel stitch. And that's what I want to show you how to do now. I'm not going to continue around. I'm going to go ahead and, for the sake of time here on the video, let's go ahead. We will join another color so that way you can see where the camel stitch is actually getting worked into, okay? So we're going to pretend that this is the end of my row and I've joined with the slip stitch, okay? So there we go. I've joined with the slip stitch. We're ready to begin round 2. You ready? So we're at the end of round 1. We're getting round 2. We simply chain 2 and here's the camel stitch. Are you ready? Normally you work into the stitches right here with the V, right? I usually put my hook right there. What I want to do is if you kind of move those V's out of the way, you see that loop right there? It's like it's the 3rd loop behind those V stitches. It's sort of like the butt of the stitch. You will put your hook into that space and that's where you will work your half double crochets. So yarn over your hook, go into the camel stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Let's do that again. Yarn over your hook, go into the next camel stitch, yarn over your hook, pull up a loop, yarn over, draw through 2. Let's do a couple more. I want you to see why I chose this particular stitch for this blanket. As many of you know, I'm a knitter and a crocheter, and I love the way stockinette stitch fabric looks. And without doing Tunisian stitch or slip stitch, it's sometimes hard to get that look in crochet. So for me, by doing the stitches in the camel stitch, can you see how that makes those V stitches that we normally work underneath pop towards the front of my fabric? And as I go around and go row for row, each time I do that, those V-stitches on each subsequent rows pop to the front of the fabric. So I get a really cool knit stitch look. Isn't that neat? Let's take a look at that on the actual blanket so you can see it even more. Might be a little hard with the white here, but let's try this out. You can see as I went around and I worked the camel stitch, it makes that fabric flip to the front, and it gives a really cool knitted sort of stitch around the border. And I thought that that simple border looked really great with this really super intense stitch pattern with really vibrant, luscious, mouth-watering colors, and it just makes me happy. And there you have it. So now you have all the skills you need to make the Chasing Rainbows blanket. I hope you will run out, grab some yarn, and make this really fun blanket. It's the perfect blanket for the baby shower maybe you need to go to, or maybe the little girl or little boy in your life. It's just a fun stitch pattern to work, and it really keeps your interest going because of the color changes. You want to see how the colors really work from one to the next. It's a fun project. And now, for so many of you who have asked me to do a video for this, you're good to go. You have a video, and hopefully you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Marley Bird YouTube channel, and I hope you will hit subscribe so that you're up to date whenever there's a new video release. If you hit that little bell icon notification, you will get notified the minute I release a video. I'm Marley Bird, proud spokesperson for Red Heart Yarns, and this is the Chasing Rainbows blanket. Bye guys. Looking for more Marley Bird? Don't worry, I've got you covered. Click right down there and you will find more videos just like this teaching you how to knit or crochet, all brought to you by Red Heart Yarns. Go ahead, click away. Don't be shy. Don't forget to smash that like button.